Welcome back to Rebirth Rereads, and this is still the Detective Comics reread of all of James Tynion IV's run for Detective Comics, but I just wanted to show my latest acquisition. I didn't get to go to C2E2 in Chicago. I went to AwesomeCon instead, but they were selling this Deathstroke vs. Batman foil cover, so if I tilt it, you can see how the light makes it really shiny because it's foil. I'm a huge fan of Christopher Priest's run on Deathstroke, and so I really wanted to commemorate this issue by getting this, and I got it on eBay. They're usually going for about $35, which is what I paid for it. This is the regular one I got from my local comic store before I knew that I could get one, but, oh man, so excited about this. Comic is exactly the same on the inside, just the cover is thicker and has a foil on it. So that's that. This is the actual issue we're doing. As you can see, I got this signed. I got this signed last year because this is a very important issue. James Tynion has said that Tim Drake is his favorite character. Now, this is something he only started to say when he was ramping up to write Detective Comics. I believe that he loves Tim Drake more than anything, but I think it's something that he discovered in the writing of this series. And he says he grew up with Chuck Dixon's Robin series, and then later Jeff Johns' Teen Titans series, and that will become important much, much later. That'll be in about a month. This cover is actually something they changed. Originally, Tim Drake was right here, but he is not, because this is the issue in which Tim Drake was killed. He sacrificed his life to stop the colony's drones from killing a bunch of civilians in an attempt to wipe out the League of Shadows, who Batman and his team believe are a myth. Batman thinks that the colony is just wanting to exercise control, and because he's looked for the League of Shadows. So this is probably supposed to be symbolic of Tim, because Steph is weeping over the body, and Steph dating Tim is going to have a more powerful emotional reaction to his death. Everyone is mourning. This is a very iconic pose. I think it's deliberate. As you can see, I'm going to show you a callback here. This is the cover for the first issue of the run, and you can see that you've got Clayface as the backdrop of both things. Tim would have been in the same place. Batman is in the middle again. Batwoman again on his left. Orphan on the same side, but she's down here, whereas Steph is down here. So they've swapped Steph's position. And then, of course, Steph's up here, and there's nobody up here except James' signature. Woo! As you can see, I'm a big fan of this, so I've gotten a bunch of the issues signed. Anyway, so this cover, actually both these covers, I'm going to bring back several times because Eddie Barrows really likes to show us this team. So that's that callback. Let's take a look, before we get too far, at the variant cover by Raphael Albuquerque. This is a very powerful little cover showing Tim, the bat signal, and so this cover was very symbolic because Tim had been facing the decision of, does he want to give up being Red Robin? Does he want to become just Tim Drake at university and make the world better as a civilian? And so this sort of symbolizes that idea, but it also has the emotional impact of the death. I chose to get this one because I love the colors. This is Albuquerque's style of just having a very monochrome or bi-color palette, whereas this has all the rich colors that Adriano Lucas likes to add to Eddie Barrows' work, and it's really expressive, and so I really wanted to get this as my cover. But I did really like the Albuquerque cover, unlike some of the other ones. So this was one of those hard choices where I would sit at the comic store and just puzzle, which of these issues do I want to get? Which of these covers do I want to get? So, creative team is, again, James Tynion IV on writing, Eddie Barrows on pencils, Iber Ferreira on inks and Adriano Lucas on colors. I do want to make one small criticism of this art team. I haven't highlighted them before, but so the lettering. Now you can see here that these letters are really kind of hard to read for the credits, and that's actually a consistent problem. Is a lot of the credits have been very hard to read. I appreciate the artistry used together, and I think there's a real effect that it has, but I wish there was more legibility in the lettering by, I think it's Sal Cipriano. Nope, this is Marilyn Patrizio. Maybe they skipped to Cipriano later. So, anyway, Eddie Barrows does a great job of penciling. He's really got an appealing face. And Tim, who often suffers the most from these... Obviously, Tim's very badly injured, about to die, but he still has a very appealing body language and head shape that sometimes just gets lost with the way Eddie Barrows can draw. And here's the famous panel of Tim dying. And there's just a lot of great evocative imagery here. The Batman in the Pietà pose holding Tim's bloody staff. There's so much great visual storytelling and the hand on the shoulder from Batwoman and the silhouettes. It's just so much artistry. It was very clear that James Tynion put his heart into this script, saying goodbye for now, for over a year, to Tim Drake. Really a great character, and Eddie Barrows put so much emotion into it. I want to highlight as the artistic highlight of the piece, the page where Batman meets with Stephanie Brown, and Stephanie tells him that Tim was going to leave. Tim was going to retire, at least for now, and go to school. And they reach for each other. And this is a wordless scene. It's all about the storytelling through the comic, through the art. And this page right here, the off of center, off of horizontal horizon line, the snow, the hug, the way you can see their expressions are both so pain and so grieving. And this is a Batman that I love. This is the Batman that I really care about, because he does have problems communicating. He does take the law into his own hands. He does want to do things his way, but he cares so much about not just Steph, which is really powerful for those of us who are longtime Steph fans and have seen Batman continually fire Steph from being Spoiler, and then fire her from being Robin, and then she tries to impress him and gets killed in War Games. And so him embracing her here is just so powerful. It doesn't have as much meaning in this continuity because this Stephanie Brown has never been as exiled from the Bat family as Spoiler in the previous continuity, but that is about to change. Spoilers. Spoiler alert. But yes, I really love this, and I really want to highlight it because something is coming, not in the next few issues, but at the end of the next arc, that we're going to need to remember this image. And I think it's just a great image. And so when the image that's coming came up, I want you to have this in your head. All right. And one more thing. I forgot about this. James Tynion really loves to show Batman hugging people. In the best issue of Batman and Robin Eternal, where they brought back Cassandra Cain into this continuity. This cover, by the way, is a great image. It's also, the art is by Carlo Pagulian, I believe Filipino artist. He is doing the art for Batman versus Deathstroke, and he did a lot of art for that. So you can see this cover by Carlo Pagulian. But there's a great flashback in this scene to the time of Batman Endgame by Scott Snyder, where the Joker and Batman were locked in a death struggle, and you see that by this upside-down bat signal, which is the Joker's thing. And Batman is talking to Cass and telling her that she is a good hero. And here's the hug between Batman and Cassandra, and it's by Marcio Takara. And I'll probably bring this issue back again, because Marcio Takara is sort of Tynion's go-to artist when he has a serious Cass issue. Takara just did this one issue for Batman and Robin Eternal, but it was so powerful. And you can see here that there's just a really consistent writing of Batman as caring and being able to physically be affectionate with his partners. And that's just really important to me as someone who loves the Bat family. So I would give this issue a 9 out of 10 stars. It is top quality comic book writing. It is still very much action movie, so there's a lot of shortcuts that are taken in shorthand, visual shorthand, but it is emotionally very powerful, and the characters all have moments, and it sets up everything so well for what's to come, as well as being a very satisfying ending. Oh, I forgot to mention, Tim's not dead. They show immediately that Tim was actually teleported to Mr. Oz, who has this weird staff, so that's how we know who he is. And he's in prison now, and so Tynion never meant us to think that Tim was dead, which does make for some problems, because when someone's dead, you want to have that have an impact. So even when Steph was dead, and I think DC really wanted us to forget that Steph was dead, but the writers would keep writing issues where people were like, oh man, spoiler's dead, that's such a tragedy. Here, it did feel a little bit like, because we knew Tim wasn't dead, there was an element where the writers would be like, well, we don't want to have everyone be too sad, because then it makes people think that Tim's really dead when we know he's just coming back. So I think that was a little awkward, because James Tynion volunteered to kill Tim, but they were going to kill Tim whether James Tynion did it or not. So I think he was just trying to make the best of the situation. They were planning this story for about 2 years, and a lot of it wasn't really figured out, and we're just now seeing the first third of the Doomsday Clock story that Rebirth and this was setting up. So we're going to have to wait and see what exactly is going on with why Tim had to be abducted. We still don't know that at this point, even 2 years later. But great story, 9 out of 10, highly recommend. Excellent art, excellent writing, top quality stuff. This is the end of the arc Rise of the Batman, Detective Comics 940. I will see you tomorrow when we start Night of the Monster Men.